Hello everyone, this is Bocchi, and I'm going to be going over my Isabelle guide. And so, people have been asking for this for a while, so I finally got around to making it. The way I want to start this off is with neutral first. So, Isabelle's neutral relies around the fact that her projectiles are super good, where she can just wall people out like this, just keep them at bay, fair and bare, almost always her best neutral options. The closer you are to your opponent, the more knockback they do, and this allows for different setups. Her other really good neutral tools are Fishing Rod, which has two different lengths. If you do a smash input, it goes farther than if you just do a normal tapped input, as seen there. See, this is smash, this is tap. So, other than that, the most important part of her neutral, other than forward air and back air, are Lloyd Mine. Lloyd Mines are super important to your neutral, as you have the ability for, if your opponent touches one, by stepping on it or landing on it with a lagging move, it sets off and does a lot of damage, which can lead into follow-ups, as well as the ability to self-detonate it. So if your opponent is like up here above you, and your Lloyd Mine is right here, you can activate it yourself and get the damage off. Lloyd Mine also does a ton of damage, giving a whole 21.4%, which is really big in the long run, as Isabelle has a really hard time racking up a ton of damage fast. Slingshots from max range, being something you control neutral with, only do 3 to 2% each. So the ability to be able to get tons of damage burst with Fishing Rod and Lloyd Mine, both doing about 20%, is super important to your neutral. The other thing to remember about Isabelle, if you don't always want to commit to approaching, as your best options are to be able to stay at range and force your opponent to come to you with these slingshots. Although sometimes it may seem that it's hard to keep just shooting away at your opponent, just slingshot after slingshot after slingshot, and get super frustrated into camp, it's super important to remember Isabelle really lacks in approach options. Her best approach options are approaching fair and bare, and due to this, it just leads to a lot of sore spots in her play. So you're really forced to just play around your forward air, back air, Fishing Rod, and Lloyd Mine. And you always want to make sure your Fishing Rod, they're a long range. Because if they're not, you're going to get punished for it. Because close range Fishing Rod is not safe, especially because it loses to block. Since it's not a command grab, it's technically a projectile. Next up is combos. Isabelle combos most of the time end up being at low percent, and most of them are followed up with throws, up tilt, or Fishing Rod. Her down throw is her combo throw, as it leads to many combos, such as down throw forwarder to dash attack is her bread and butter. It does a solid 26% and is super easy to pull off, and allows for a ton of easy damage. Isabelle also gets access to forward air strings, where she can land at certain times to get multiple forwarders off. So stuff like this is possible. Oops, messed it up. Stuff like this is possible, where you just get tons of damage for free and put your opponent in an edgeguard situation. And if people try jumping out, they're dead. Now, another thing to remember about our combo game is that Fishing Rod down throw also leads to combos. And if they miss DI, you can get an up air. So let's say your opponent DIs in on this Fishing Rod down throw. Instead of getting just forward airs, you can do stuff like this, where you do an up air instead. It does slightly more damage than the forward airs, but most of the time it's okay to go for forward airs because you can connect more into each other and it does more damage. Although if your opponent does hard DI in, sometimes it's harder to get the forward air because you're expecting them to DI more out, as DI out is the optimal DI at higher percents. Now, her other really important combo starter is up tilt. Up tilt is super disjointed and leads into a ton of things. It leads into itself, as if they try air dodging, it most of the time will catch them because it's long linger. But if you don't think the up tilt will catch an air dodge, you can do a grab or a pivot grab, as I like to do here. This can also lead into stuff like this, where you can do an up tilt, read an air dodge grab, and then get your forward air strings off. This allows for a ton of damage and really easy edge guards to set off the game. Some other combos to just be aware of, although they're not as consistent, is you have stuff like Nair to F tilt, you have Bear to grab, you have landing fair to grab, and as well as up air, landing up air, which is a combo starter. This leads to a lot of stuff too, as it can lead into up tilts and other stuff, although it's really hard to hit, especially in small characters. So, another thing to remember when it comes to Isabelle and her combos is that she has a decent amount of kill setups too with Mine. So, Lloyd Mine has enough time where you can combo off of it. So, stuff like this is possible, where you have a Lloyd Mine down, you get an up air, And once your opponent's about, like, for heavyweights like Ganondorf, let's say around, like, 120-ish, right? You can do stuff like this, where you get a Lloyd Mine down, they get knocked up, and then you can follow up with an up air to get the kill. And it's super hard to DI the up air, because most of the time the up air just sends straight up. So as long as you follow up correctly, that up air is almost guaranteed and will always lead to a kill. Otherwise, for kill setups, she doesn't really have any. She's sorely lacking in kill setups outside of jab kill setups, although they're super hard to hit. Around 130-ish, jab has enough frame advantage to lead to a true F tilt if you do the input fast enough. Although I'm not even the best at it still, because the input timing is really tight, especially at like just when it starts starting. The way Jab's frame advantage works is the same as what Snake down throw does. So the reasoning that Snake's down throw can lead to up tilt for Snake when he's at like when your opponent is at 160 is the same reason that Isabelle can start comboing off her jab, as the move almost never puts your opponent into tumble, even at super duper high percents. Like I'm pretty sure it doesn't even put them in tumble at 999. Oh, yep, it does. Okay, but see, it won't kill. The move is super weak, so it leads into a lot of stuff like that. Jab with frame advantage is super weak though, so knowing your jab mix up at lower percents, like going for grabs and stuff if they think you're going to shield, or if they roll trying to follow up with like a dash attack is super important as well. So next up is edge guarding and ledge trapping. So Isabelle's edge guards really just rely on stuff like forward airs, trying to catch jumps, back airs, stuff like that, and as well as Nair. Nair is super good as it lingers for a while and has a really big hitbox. You can also try going for down air as it spikes, and although the spike is kind of weak, but if you do hit it, it is a relatively strong move. Nair, in my opinion, is our best drop zone though, as you can just Nair super fast, catch people trying to throw out moves like recoveries, and half the time it will trade at least if it does not beat it. Although recoveries like Martha and Lucina who have invincibility at the start are really hard to hit with it. Due to this, it allows us to get a lot of free edge guards, especially because Nair's knockback, if it's a sour Nair, sends them almost nowhere and just kills their aerial momentum, but if it does hit, it'll send them almost straight out, because Nair's knockback is pretty weak. Nair is also super fast and super good, just in general, but it's really shining in offstage scenarios. Another thing to remember about edge guards is that we can use Fishing Rod to keep them continuously off stage, and due to this, it makes edge guards a lot more free. This also helps in our ledge trapping, as ledge trapping revolves around a lot of Lloyd Mine. Lloyd Mine is super amazing for ledge traps, as different positions lead to different scenarios you can use it for. So if I put a Lloyd Mine here, that'll catch neutral get up, and I can stand at roll range to try to catch jumps with a forward air, and if they roll I can react with a grab, and if they neutral get up, they'll stand on the mine and get hit. Now, let's say they get up attack. Their invincibility will allow them to destroy the Lloyd Mine, as it only has about 10 health. So moves that do more damage than that will just straight up beat it and it'll blow up. So, if they get up attack it, there'll be enough time for you to react to the Lloyd Mine got hit and exploded. Let me run up and grab them. Or let me run up and jump now. Stuff like that, and it'll allow you to hit them for trying to get up attack. So her option with Lloyd Mine at neutral position is super good. You can also put it at about roll range and stand here yourself if you think you're going to be more comfortable at pressuring them yourself. And then, if they try to roll, they'll get caught by the Lloyd Mine, and you get a free follow-up like an up air. So her ledge trapping is super generic, where you just put out Fishing Rod, make sure you have a Lloyd Mine planted somewhere, Fishing Rod. If they don't get caught on their ledge, try to play your ledge trap correctly. And then, if they do get thrown back up, go for an edge guard with like a fair and nair, stuff like that. So Isabelle's approaching game is super weak. She is trying to approach with nair, fair, maybe sliding F tilt sometime, and dash attack. But her approach options are super weak as she's a slow character, especially compared to some of the cast, and her close range moves are relatively unsafe on block. So you have to be super careful with what you're doing. Due to this, most of the time you're playing neutral with Isabelle and you're trying to quote-unquote approach, it's not going to work. That's why when you're losing and you don't have the lead, it's super hard to make comebacks with this character. You have to nickel and dime a lot and make people fall into your traps the best you can. Due to this though, it also allows Isabelle to frustrate their opponent and leads to what I like to call defending, or I guess camping would be another word for it. You can just sit here and shoot slingshots and your opponent will eventually get frustrated, and most of the time because of the way the slingshots fire, people try jumping over it, where you can catch with higher slingshots, back airs, up airs if they're above you. You can put Lloyd Mines down. If you're sitting here and they try jumping, like right here, you activate the Lloyd Mine, keep them away. You can throw out fishing rods if they try jumping because they can't shield. So her defensive game is super strong, and it gets into your opponent's head really easily and can cause tilt. And people, when they're tilted against Isabelle, lose super fast. People don't like fighting this character. She's campy, and her moves are obnoxious. That's why people don't relatively like her, even if she's not a good character. Due to this, however, though, if you are down, you're not going to be able to make a comeback half the time. Most of the time, if your opponent can counter camp, if they have a projectile that you can't pocket, stuff like Explosive Flame from Palutena, it gets super obnoxious to try to bring back a comeback, especially if you're down like an entire stock. You have to outplay your opponent a ton and hope that you can bring a lead back so you can go back to your super defensive game. So, next is Isabelle's disadvantage state, which I can't really show in training mode, but it's super hard to get out of. Isabelle's disadvantage is super lacking, especially when she's stuck in the air, because she's stuck with very little options, because down air doesn't hit too far, and obviously her other moves can't really hit below her. If you have a Lloyd Mine, you can try to use it to cover a landing option and try to bring yourself back to the ledge, but other than that, you have to pray that they jump into a fishing rod, or that you can B-reverse your pocket. Pocket gives you invincibility frames, as its main purpose of the invincibility is to make sure you don't get hit by a projectile while you're pocketing, but it also allows you to escape options. Like, if I'm above Ganon here and he's trying to chase me, I can do, like, B-reverse pockets, like, wave bounce pockets, just drift in with pocket and then drift back out, because you have a lot of air mobility with pocket. So being able to use your pocket movement to try to land is super important, especially if someone's trying to chase you. Another good thing about Isabelle is retreating to ledge, as she's pretty comfortable on ledge. She can do jump down slingshots. Her jump get up is pretty good. Her air dodge is also super good. She has one of the better directional air dodges in the game. As well as you can do stuff like drop down fishing rod and try to snag people and stage spike them. She has a tether recovery too, which is super good. It allows her to get back to the ledge quick, as tethers go pretty fast. And also, sometimes you can get the tether glitch, where you teleport in through the stage and into the and it can sometimes toss up your opponent. You might not end up behind them. I can't do it consistently because it's super weird, but there are some setups for it that I know some of the Isabelle mains have gone through. Like, as you saw there, it's like I got the weird swing, but it's just super weird timing. But if you can get it, that can toss up your opponent's edge guard and put you in neutral or disadvantage again. But one of the better things to have, if you know you're going to get hit probably, or if you're feeling unsafe, is have a Lloyd Mine down and try to retreat to it. Because if you just self-detonate it, they have to respect it or they're going to get hit. Due to this, though, it feels like you almost always have to have a Lloyd Mine down. So if you get put in disadvantage and you don't have one down, trying to escape feels so hard. You're limited to pocket, going to ledge, and down air. And if you can't get off ledge because the character's super good at ledge trapping, like Palutena, it'll feel almost impossible, and you might take a ton of percent before you get a chance to get off. So after disadvantage is some of our matchups. I should have the my matchup chart up on the screen, and my current matchup chart is pretty meh. She has a good amount of evens and a few winnings, not amazing though, but she has a lot of losing matchups, and especially to most of the super relevant meta characters. Due to this, she struggles in a lot of tournament settings because people prefer to play top tiers and high tiers over characters that are less common, such as like K-Rool and Plant, which are similar for better matchups. Characters like Palutena and the Pikachu and Pichu destroy Isabelle. Pikachu and Pichu's small size and super good advantage makes it super hard for Isabelle to play her game, and Palutena is just Palutena. Never beat Slingshot. Explosive Flame can't be pocketed and destroys Lloyd Mine and keeps us from zoning. Auto Reticle is obnoxious, and her combo game and advantage state is super good. We also have a trouble at ledge trapping her because of her teleport recovery, so it makes it really hard to keep her in disadvantage, making the matchup super hard. Isabelle's best matchup against the top tiers, though, was Snake. I personally think it's even, although some Isabelles think we win. We get the ability to pocket, like, most of Snake's neutral kit. Probably, like, half of it being grenades. He can't use them so safe, because if we pocket one, I could throw it back, use it against him. We have the ability to pocket Nikita. If he throws it off stage, he can't edgeguard us. And we can pocket up smash to kill him super early. Most Snake players will try to avoid up smashing for that reason, but if you can pocket a Nikita, throw it back as soon as possible. Being able to keep an open pocket in that matchup is super important, as at least it's making his neutral a lot harder for him to play. Although Snake may seem like we should win due to the pocket and the fact that we can counter camp him super hard, the fact that we get super shut out by the fact he just has big hitboxes and he kills it super early just makes the matchup no way close to winning, in my opinion. We also have free edge guards on Snake if they're not being careful with the recovery, because Fishing Rod will always take Snake out of a Cypher, due to it being some weird projectile command grab mix. And it loses the shield, but it beats stuff like Cypher, which doesn't really make sense, because Sakurai doesn't know what he wants to do with the move, but I'm not really complaining. It's good for the matchup. Now, finally, I want to go into stages, as Isabelle has a pretty okay stage list, as most of the stages are pretty good for her. I personally think Isabelle's best stage, after a lot of review of all of her stages, is Town. Town gives us a ton of space, and the mix of FD and platforms leads to really easy traps and zoning tools. And I personally think that correct usage of Town, if your opponent isn't banning it, is super important. Another stage I think is really good, but isn't in all rule sets, is Unova. Unova gives us a lot of space, and has a pretty good platform layout for us, as well as the fact that due to the lightning and the lighting of the stage, it's hard to see Lloyd Mine a lot, and this allows for really easy traps. Same thing with the color of Town stage, it makes it kind of hard to see Lloyd Mine. This is even further demonstrated on Smashville. It's really hard to see Lloyd Mine on this stage. I lose it sometimes myself. So this is another really good stage for Isabelle, and if you can go here, I recommend going here. And Battlefield is pretty okay, but avoid it in some matchups like Marcina, or characters who are really good at juggling you. It's super hard to get down on a stage like Battlefield against those type of characters, so I recommend banning it or just not going to it. PS2 is pretty good for Isabelle, but it's one of those stages where it's super matchup dependent. I'm normally fine starting here, but in some matchups it's just better not to. The space is pretty good, but the platform layout is meh, and on this stage there's something called rod glitch, where the rod won't go off the stage correctly if it touches like the side of the stage, and it'll come up and mess up your edge guard, so be careful of that. Besides these main stages, I don't like FD, as I personally believe it's super hard to get down on the stage, and even though it's flat and can be a pretty decent pick in a few matchups, it's super uncomfortable when you get put at disadvantage against a very good player. I also say to avoid stages with slants at all costs. I think slants are Isabelle's worst weakness, so stages like Yoshi's Story, Yoshi's Island, and Lilat are super bad for her, although some Isabelles like it. I think the slants mess up Lloyd Mine, Fishing Rod, her combos, it's just super bad. So just avoid slants if you can. I also think that Kalos is one of her better stages, but it can be kind of detrimental, as Isabelle can struggle to kill, and this will enhance that by a tenfold. Kalos' blast zones are huge, but the fact that the stage is so big, it allows you to wall out characters who want to approach you super well, and the platforms are good for recovery mix-ups. So it's a counter pick that you can use, but it's very matchup dependent. So in conclusion for stages at least, go to Town. If Town gets banned, go to Unova or Smashville, because they can't ban both of those. And at worst situation, if they have 3 bans, go to Battlefield or PS2, depending on matchup. If they can juggle you super well, don't go Battlefield, go to PS2. If they're really good at rushing you down, but their juggling isn't too good, go to Battlefield. Especially if they have trouble killing too. Battlefield will let you live even longer. And Isabelle's combos and kills on Battlefield are good because the blast zones are so big, and like the offstage is so big that it allows for edge guards a lot. So, thank you for watching the guide. I really appreciate it. I put in a decent amount to work to this, and, yeah, I guess that's really it. Thank you guys for watching, and, if you want, you can follow my Twitter at Bocchi, and my Twitch, which is also Bocchi. So, if you like what you see, I'm going to be uploading more, probably gameplay, some stream highlights maybe, and I'll try to do more on here. Alright, thank you for watching.